Hey, it's Gary and welcome to a little bit of a conversation around what it is like to be a mortgage broker. What is it like to have a day in the life as a mortgage broker? Now, if you like this video, make sure that you like the page, you subscribe, you get notifications, and you leave a comment below with any questions that you might have. So, mortgage brokering, first of all, has changed significantly. Now, I've been brokering since 2003, which was pre the credit crunch. So if we take you back to then when I joined the industry, you have to go through, first of all, examinations. And there's new ones around that now, but I did what's called CMAP, which is a certificate in mortgage advice and practice. There are 3 examinations. The first one covers off regulation and all the bits and bobs that you need to do to be able to give advice in this world. The second one covers off all the different types of products, from life insurance to mortgages, the different types of mortgages, the different interest rates. And the third one is about how you apply them to different circumstances and scenarios. Now, randomly, when I did my exams, I actually failed the third one. I failed the second one, but I passed the third one, which kind of is weird because it implies that I didn't have the knowledge, but I knew how to apply it. Because the one thing I would say about this job, it is very, very practical. So obviously I resat them and I got my mortgage qualifications, and I've been mortgage qualified since 2003. Now, pre-credit crunch, pre-2008, it was much, much easier because 9 times out of 10, you didn't need a lot of documentation. For example, if your client had 25% deposit or 25% equity, you just had to sign a piece of paper and the bank would almost give you the money that you needed. It was really, really simple. The paperwork was less. The advice that you were giving, in actual fact, there was more products around. But the advice was easier to give because there wasn't as much research that was needed to be done. And what happens is once you've sat down with a client, it goes through a process. And I call it the 6 S's. So, the first thing any self-employed person needs to do is set themselves up. But in order to be able to understand your client, it's called KYC, know your client. You have to go through your strategy call. And that's just having a conversation with the client to work out where they are now versus where they want to be. It's asking that question of, how can I best help you? What are the results that you want? What experience have you got using a mortgage broker in the past? And actually just going through that initial phase and having that conversation. So many people go out to see their clients not actually having had a conversation and realizing what they want to do. And you can waste hours driving to your client. And actually what ends up happening is you just end up sitting in the car, getting to a client's house and realizing that actually you can't help them. Whereas you could have done that on your phone and saved yourself a lot of travel time. So once you've gone through your strategy, you then have to get your documentation in from the client and you have to go through the scrutiny. And this is the element of the process that has massively changed. Because since 2008, when the credit crunch happened, mortgages, I call it, fell off a cliff and you weren't able to give advice very, very easily. They then brought around new regulations to safeguard all the banking changes, and there was a regulation called MMR, Mortgage Market Review. We have new affordability checks that need to be done, and everything is based on income, expenditure and disposable income, not just now, but also in the future. And that's one of the major changes that happened. So the scrutiny that you have to go through now is everything and the kitchen sink. So within our strategy call after that, when we get to the scrutiny stage, we will request all documentation from clients up front. So it's going to be pay slips, 3 months worth of bank statements, say 3 months pay slips, 3 months bank statements, obviously if they're employed. 3 years or potentially 2, or if you've been self-employed 1, we might want 1 year or 2 years SA 302 tax calculations and tax year overviews for a sole trader. Also for a limited company director, we're going to want company accounts, we're going to want credit reports, we're going to want proof of deposit. We as regulated individuals have to check money laundering. We have to make sure that there's no issues. We have to check who the person is, who they say they are. And it's really, really important that we actually go through and act as professional individuals with the qualifications that we have, so that therefore we can give the best result and get the best, we can give the best advice to get the best result for our clients. And that is really, really important. So once we get all of that documentation in, We are then going to go through it with a fine tooth comb. And when I say a fine tooth comb, this is exactly what the lenders do. Because, for example, some lenders, any payment over £300 that is on your bank account, they might question it. And that could affect your affordability if you're buying a residential home. They want to check the source of deposit, and we have a legal obligation to make sure that that has come from a viable source, an approvable source. So a lot of what we're actually doing is chasing clients to get these documentation because they tend to drag their heels, and no offense to anyone who takes their time, but it's not your biggest priority. We generally find that the ones who really want to buy a home are actually the ones who get it done as soon as possible. So getting the documentation in can be one of the painstaking parts of being a mortgage advisor, because you're chasing, and it's when do you give up? Well, I can tell you that realistically it takes 12 follow-ups before you give up on somebody. That's my rule of thumb. And then once you've got the documentation in, you have to go through that scrutiny. You have to look at every single piece of the puzzle and piece it all together. Now, if it's a buy-to-let, for example, which could be potentially non-regulated, you don't have to do as much because it's the rental income that dictates the mortgage amount that your client is going to get, or you may get. It's not going to be your income that's going to dictate it, i.e. the income that you earn. Now, there's loads of different criteria that come in and around this, and that is one of the major things that you need to understand if you want to become a mortgage broker, is the ability to retain the lender information and their criteria is a fundamental part of the job. Because one of the hardest things about being a mortgage broker is being able to remember the criteria of thousands of lenders. Now, you may not use thousands of lenders. You might have, I think we use around about 40 across the board. Some of them we will use a hell of a lot more than others because clients fit into certain boxes, and we deal with anything from, within my brokerage, anything from residential, moving home, remortgaging, first-time buyers, through to buy-to-lets, HMOs, serviced accommodation. HMO is a house of multiple occupancy, where you rent out each individual room. Serviced accommodation is like Airbnb style, through to bridging loans, short-term finance that gets your client through a stopgap, all the way through to, massive developments. Portfolioing at this stuff, it's really important that in actual fact, you make sure that you have everything to be able to do that assessment. And as an advisor, your job is to understand all the different criterias. And this is why I'm a big fan of niching the target market that you're going to best serve. Because how can you understand 15 different scenarios and potentially, let's say there's 15 lenders in each of those categories. That's 15 times 15. That is a huge amount of knowledge that you need to be able to retain. Whereas if you know that your client fits a specific box, i.e. they're a contractor, they are self-employed sole trader, and you market to somebody who's got 2 years accounts, you get what you pitch for. So if you're only talking to limited company directors, then you're only going to attract limited company directors. If you deal with nurses or policemen or police women, police people, then in actual fact, you're going to understand not only their job, you're going to resonate with them really well, but you're going to understand the criteria that best suits that person. So niching is really powerful, not only to be able to attract the right type of clients that you want, but also to limit the number of lenders that you tend to deal with. So therefore you can give the best advice, you can get the best solution, you can become the expert in that particular job title. So lender knowledge and retention of that knowledge is absolutely key. So what else do you need to do as a mortgage broker, and a day in the life of a mortgage broker, and how do you ultimately become a mortgage broker? Well, in order to be able to get your CAS status, competent advisor status, that means that you've got to have your files checked, because once you've done your scrutiny, you have to provide an illustration or a quotation to your client that outlines everything around what that document, what the interest rates are, what the terms of the deal is, what the APR is, if there's any tie-ins, what the fees are, if there's any penalties, what they can and can't do in terms of overpayments and no overpayments. So it's really, really important that you talk and walk your client through that quotation to ensure that they know exactly what they're buying into, because you are entering into a contract. You are making the largest financial commitment in your life, and it's massively important that you have an advisor, a broker, somebody that loves and cares for you and would do for you as they would do for themselves and their own family. So actually making sure that you have that is really, really important. So once you've actually gone through the quotation, the best thing that you can do is actually reply to your broker, and the broker can ask you to say, yes, I'm happy with the quotation, I understand it, I'm happy for you to proceed with an agreement in principle. And an agreement in principle is also known as a decision in principle. It's also known as a mortgage in principle. And this is where a credit check takes place. So your mortgage broker will take the information, they will load that into the mortgage lender's system, and they will basically turn around and say yes or no based on your credit history. And part of the assessment will be going through the fact find and recording your affordability. So making sure that all of your income is correct, all of your expenditure is correct, that your loans, that your credit cards, that your commitments are all absolutely up to date. And we will do an affordability check to make sure it fits. Every lender has a different affordability. That's one of the tricky things. So in taking all of that information and giving it to the mortgage lender will then be able to turn around and say how much they will be willing to lend. And then in doing that agreement in principle, the lender will come back and say, yes, you can have that money, and you can put your hands in the air and go, woohoo! And then that means you can actually go out and buy property in the knowledge that you are going to get finance. Now, there is no guarantees at this point because it's only a credit check. Once you've found your home or once you've found your investment property, you will then have to actually go through the application process. And that application process is the next level, because you provide the solicitor's details, you provide accountant details, you provide employer details, you go through more detailed checking, and actually what your mortgage advisor will do will be to send all of the documentation that they've taken from you and provide that to the mortgage lender. Now, more often than not, people don't realise the amount of work that actually goes on behind the scenes. When you first speak to somebody, right at the very beginning of the process, it can more often than not take 21 hours of work to get them from first conversation through to actually collecting the keys of the house. 21 hours on average. And that's actually for something that's quite vanilla, quite black and white. 3 pay slips, 3 bank statements, good credit history, no major issues or concerns. And I think it's really, really important that mortgage brokers value their time. And actually what happens is once that mortgage application is submitted to the lender that's relevant and the most suitable and the best possible product for your circumstances, we then become the glue, the piece that holds everything together. We deal with the life insurance, we deal with the critical illness, we deal with the home insurance, we deal with the estate agent, we deal with the solicitor. We are the person who sits at the top, and everybody else relies on us getting the mortgage through and making sure that you get your home through to completion. So do not underestimate the value of what a mortgage broker will do for you, because everybody else can't do the job without us. So in actual fact, mortgage brokers are the elite people who make your homes and finances possible. And it is really important that you actually value the service that is being provided, because you could spend hours going out and researching. Imagine running up and down the high street and speaking to every single bank and then finding out that actually your criteria, your circumstances, your life does not meet that of the lenders that you've spoken to. And therefore you then have to go and ring every other lender off of the high street, all the little building societies, all the ones that don't necessarily have some sort of high street presence, some sort of shop, only to then find out that actually, they're not right for you either. That is what a mortgage broker will do. We have systems, we have tools, we have the ability to retain knowledge and understand your circumstances to make sure that you get the best financial solution both now and in the future. And then once that application is submitted and your home is underway, we are then going to be chasing the lender. We're going to be providing them with documentation. We've done credit checks. We've done anti-money laundering checks. We've made sure that you are taken care of right the way through. And the next big milestone in this whole entire process is about getting you to mortgage offer. And once you've got that mortgage offer, then you can do your big double woo for the fact that you are in receipt of your finance without a shadow of a doubt. Because that stage, the mortgage offer goes to you, it goes to your solicitor, and it obviously goes to your broker. And then that is the piece of the puzzle, because then it is over to your solicitor and they will take over. They will then get you to the point where you can exchange and you can actually buy the home. And the exchange is the legal commitment that you have to continue buying that property, which is then going to carry you right the way through to completion where you collect your keys. And this is the big thing. Mortgage brokers can do all of this for you. We can take care of absolutely everything in the process. We can make your life easy. We can make it simple. We can make it quick, efficient. We can save you time. We can allow you to focus on the fun of decorating your house, improving your home, getting the best interest rate, ensuring that both now and in the future you are always remaining on the best interest rate. Because I can tell you that some of the high street banks and mortgage lenders that are out there, they aren't reviewing your circumstances, because the more money that they earn, or the money that they earn, is based on the interest rate that you pay. So you will get a specific deal for 2, 3, 5, 10 years, depending on what your mortgage broker recommends is the best for you. When that comes to an end, they're better now than they were back pre-credit crunch. But there are a lot of people sitting out there not on deals. I've saved a client £900 a month before on his mortgage payment, where he was paying like 4.5%, 5%, when in actual fact he should have been paying 1.5% to 2%. And those rates are not relevant to your circumstances. They're just indicative rates based on someone's personal experience that I've dealt with. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that in order to save yourself time, to get the best deal, to get the best result, you speak to a broker, you allow them to act as a professional rather than trying to do it yourself. Because if you were going to go and get heart surgery or hand surgery, or you broke your leg, would you put a cast on yourself? Would you go and do heart surgery on yourself? Or would you go to an expert? Would you go to the best surgeon, the consultant, the person who knows their stuff and can get it done quickly and efficiently, save you more money and save you more time? That is what mortgage brokers do for you. So the day in the life of a mortgage broker, just to summarize, and what mortgage brokers actually do, is we speak to people, we give advice, we chase people, we scrutinize, and we go through documentation with an absolute fine tooth comb. We have a legal obligation to protect you and the mortgage lender and make sure that you get the best advice, that your money has come from a viable legal source, that you've paid the relevant taxes that you need to pay, that you're doing the job that you say you are doing, that your business is your business and that you've ran it for a long period of time. We've got to protect the lender, then make sure that you can pay that mortgage in the future. Now, it is the lender's responsibility to make sure that that mortgage is going to be affordable. But our job is to find you the lender that is actually going to give you the mortgage that you want. So we do research, we have a massive amount of knowledge, and ultimately we will put our hand around you, we will hold your hand, and we will walk you through the process from beginning to end, no matter whether you are a beginner or whether you're a first-time buyer, or whether you're doing this for the 50th time. Constantly the criteria changes on a daily basis. The interest rates change sometimes daily, weekly, monthly. So the value that a mortgage broker can bring to your life is huge. And what we end up doing for more than 8, 9, 10 hours of a day is sitting behind a desk, looking after you and making sure that you get the best result. So that's what a day in the life of a mortgage broker is. As a perfect example, if I don't go to the gym in the morning, I probably end up doing about 2,500 steps throughout the day. Most mortgage brokers will end up working 7 days a week until they get to the point where they get administrators and admins, PAs, executive assistants, and that's where I help them to build their business and to grow and to leverage and to recruit and actually build a business that they are proud of, to make sure that they have They stick to the level of their capacity, they improve their marketing, they create more leads, more sales, more profit, more time. That's my passion, and that's why, having been a mortgage broker since 2003 and worked for some of the largest organisations in the UK, from banks to estate agents to brokerages to running my own business since 2006, I'm sitting in one of the best positions to be able to help mortgage brokers create the business that they want to create for the future. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea. If you've got any questions, then obviously hit me up with a comment. I'll be more than happy to answer and go through. Mortgage brokers really are an invaluable source to making sure that you can buy your property and you can live the life that you want to love. So thank you very much indeed for tuning in, and remember, now is the time to become pro.